Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Franchise Dissection, the show where we examine your favorite horror franchise one entry at a time, asking if it is essential to the franchise as a whole. I'm your host, Alan, and I'm joined by my good friend, Corbin.
Hey, guys.
And surprise guest, we got Bobby here from the main show as well, hanging out.
Holy shit, Friday the 13th is bad.
That's a hot take, but we'll get into that a little later. So just as we are finding our stride with Friday the 13th in this show, so is the franchise as a whole with Part 3. So Franchise Dissection does go live on our YouTube channel every other Friday. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you think about the show. Also, come check out our Discord server. We talk about fun stuff. Warhammer comes up. I don't talk about Warhammer because it's not something for me, but these two nerds will talk all about it with you.
I talk about it the least, but yes.
Well, that's still more than me, and more than most.
True. True and based.
All right, boys. Let's get into this body, shall we? All right, so we got to talk about Jason, because Jason is Jason now. It's not just the hockey mask. It's his presence. He feels like Jason. You know, it's not just the presence. It's he himself is what I think Jason. Now we actually get that. You want to fight me on that, Bobby?
I feel like me and Corbin both want to fight you on this. I don't. So I made a joke in the beginning of this. I don't like these movies, and I'll be back to tell you I don't like these movies again. But like I feel like he's the hockey mask. He's like 90% of the way there, right? Like, and most of these movies, for Jason to be Jason, it's just the hockey mask, right? But the reality is he's missing that physicality in this movie.
Yeah, that was going to be the comment that I made. Is like he's
go for it.
Not all the way there. Like I actually don't think that his physical presence is as realized in this movie as he will be even in Part 4. I think that he's still there's some leftover of like his athleticism and a taller, like thinner build in this one, and the way that he stalks around and just maneuvers is not quite the undead hunter type character that we get from Jason later. I do think that the hockey mask does a lot to get us there, though.
Yeah,
it's not Kane Hodder as Jason, right? I mean, like let's just be real. Like that's the Jason that everybody like thinks of. Everybody thinks of. I assume you guys will get to that without me, but like the Jason takes Manhattan. Kane Hodder Jason is, I think, like one of the most iconic, and like. There are absolutely iconic kills in this movie, much to my own chagrin. But that like are big, but like it's not. He's more like a lumbering. Like he reminds me of like a Wrong Turn villain, like where he's kind of like this lumbering hillbilly compared to this like angry force of nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's for me. It's just seeing his evolution in these first 3 movies, and then where we are now, and then compared to obviously as things kind of change quite a bit after 4. It's the first time where you just, and I think a lot of that is the hockey mask, and that first shot of him walking out on the dock is just good. That shot of him just walking up with a harpoon gun, just like, fuck you. It's so good. It's so well done. I love it.
But he looks so doofy when he just walks off.
I disagree. I think he looks great.
He's like,
he does Jason stuff. You know, that's the thing. He just does Jason stuff. What were you gonna say?
I think part of what makes that shot iconic is that it is really like the first time that you see him with the mask on. You know, because it's also the first time that you see Jason in Part 3. You know, head to toe, because up until that point they do some POV stuff, they do some you're seeing just a little bit of him, a little bit not of him, because for some reason they didn't want to show him, you know, without the mask. They didn't want to show him with just the sack, right? And I think that the way that they build up the mask in the movie, I think that that lends itself to the scene.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna never give any of these movies credit, but like it's an iconic scene, right? Like we can't I can't fight that as because Jason Voorhees is an iconic character, right? You look at, say, I don't know, for instance, Corbin's background, and you can see on that bottom row some of the most important characters in history, and Jason Voorhees falls into that, right? And he's got the hockey mask, and that's the first time you ever see it, right? And it almost, to a certain extent, in hindsight, undercuts some of the kills that happened before it, even though some of those kills can be more interesting magic tricks.
All right, as usual, we got to talk about the gore in these movies because it's, a pretty important factor in just everything going on. I have to say, I think it's much improved compared to 2. I think just overall the gore level is higher. I mean, Andy's kill entirely kind of shows that just out the gate, him getting chopped almost entirely in half. Yeah, that the first time I saw that, I just winced immediately. It was brutal to see.
Yeah.
What did you think?
So I think, first of all, I think that is one of the best kills in the entire franchise. It's iconic. It's shot really well. Like, the cinematography is oddly good for Friday the 13th. And it's memorable, right? And you mentioned, you winced when you saw it. Like, I winced when I watched it. I've seen this movie 100 times. And it still kind of hits you because that kill is easy to think about. Like, a lot of kills in slashers, when you see it happen on the screen, it's hard to imagine that actually happening to you. You're just kind of grossed out, maybe. Andy's kill is easy to imagine. It's easy to think about, what would that, feel like? And
what would that be like? Yeah.
That kill also is not actually that gory because they only show it for like a split second. And I agree that this movie has better gore than the second movie. And a lot of that is because the censorship is just not as strong in this one. However, Andy's kill, they don't actually show very much of it. You see most of it after the fact when he's just a corpse.
That's what I say. I think that's why you have such a visceral reaction to it in hindsight, because you remember like that shot of him like bisected in the rafters, and you're like, oh God. Well, and especially us as 3 dudes being like, oh fuck, groin first? No way, man.
Yeah, seriously.
Like.
Well, and then it's immediately followed up with Debbie just getting stabbed through the chest as well, which is a great homage to our boy Kevin Bacon from the first movie. It follows it. Yeah. You're like, this is bad, and then it's worse with that. It's so good.
Yeah, this feels like them trying to be like, yo, Tom Savini, we know, like, we're starting to see that maybe you're the guy in horror to listen to, and they started to like try to do some of his stuff, and then it gets kind of mixed in with like the 3D elements, which
there's a couple of kills that are, I think, better for it because they did them because of the 3D. For example, the second kill, I believe, in the movie, which is that like random wife character who just exists to die. I think her name was Edna. She gets a sewing needle shoved through the back of her skull and out of her mouth, and that scene is so visceral and so well done. Super, super cool to see. And it feels like a scene that they, even though it's not, I don't think it's a 3D shot, it feels like a scene that they did because of the 3D. And then you have kills that are probably worse for the 3D, which you brought it up already, Jason on the dock. I'm sorry, but the harpoon kill is kind of lame. It's just not.
What do you mean? I got so spooked in my 3D glasses watching the eyeball come at me. Both eyeballs, actually. The old man and what's his face. I was like, oh no! Ah! What? No!
The other one that just doesn't work for me is Rick getting his head popped and the eyes shooting out.
Yeah, Rick's his name. That's
so bad. It's just like It's definitely not the most egregious of the 3D, but I think it's one of the worst parts.
The
of
yo-yo.
3D.
The yo-yo is, I think, the most egregious moment of 3D.
Is it more egregious than the juggling?
Or the wallet throwing? Like,
yeah. Or the very first 3D shot when he like angles the pole into the camera.
That one's
so let me be very clear. This is the start of and you know, me and Corbin in our very long friendship together have talked about this in length. This is probably the start of Friday the 13th legitimately like trying to walk the tightrope of just not giving a single care about whether or not this movie is good, just as long as it makes box office returns. And I think it gets to a point where they stop caring about whether or not the movie is good, like a couple movies farther down. And frankly, those movies are better served for it, because this is like trying to edge a weird gap of being like, we can still do part 2. Part 2 was a half decent movie. It wasn't, by the way. I wasn't on that episode, but it wasn't. And this is just like, it goes, we can do part 2 again, but make it like part 1's level of gore, but we can also add 3D because it's the third movie. And it doesn't, the elements, all these elements on their own could work together, but when you combine all three of them, it's just like, yikes.
All right, it's time to talk about the climax. So last time we talked about how Ginny is probably the best final girl, one of the best final girls in the entire franchise. Chris is not a better final girl, but I do think from what I've seen, she still stands out, I would say, a bit better. She fights Jason, I think, in a way that is smart. And that's something you can really appreciate. Like, you know, she runs out of the house and just waits for him to come. And then just, like, bashes his skull in with a big old rock. Which, you know, most times when these girls are running, they're just running or they're trying to escape. But I like seeing when they actually try and fight back against Jason. I think that kind of puts them in a different kind of league, you know?
Mm-hmm. So you're into that, the offensive final girl.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just playing defense, where's that going to get you? You know, you gotta you're dealing with, not yet, I guess technically, not yet a supernatural zombie force, but you know, you're dealing with we've already established that this man can take machetes to the shoulder and just brush it off like it ain't shit. So you're not going to win and beat that guy by just running away. You got to actually take the fight to him.
And this movie literally takes place a day later.
Exactly.
He's fully healed.
It's dumb. Yeah, he's good. What are you talking about, Bobby?
Let's talk about the most shocking part about this taking place a day later. His outfit is completely different.
Yeah. Where did he get those clothes?
He stole them from
Edna?
Yeah,
that's fair. You don't see him until then, so he probably did. So the thing that I like about Chris in this one, the final girl, the thing that I like, it's a terrible, traumatic story. She recounts her prior run-in with Jason, right? And there's this heavy implication that she was caught and sexually assaulted by Jason in the forest, right? And this adds a layer to her as the final girl, and I think leads into her offensive stylings towards the end in the climax, that you don't end up seeing in any of the final girls after that, because it's kind of an angle that Friday the 13th as a franchise is not interested in pursuing. But I mean, did you read into that? Did you even notice? I think they kind of say it just fast enough that you can kind of go, oh, let's not worry about that.
Yeah, it's hard not to pick up on that, just even when you see that sequence occur. It's like, this is not just because normally Jason just kills people. You know, there's not the way he was grabbing at her was different compared to what we've seen in previous and future entries. It's not just, I'm gonna strangle you and kill you. Like, it had a different connotation to it. And that, like you said, that kind of shows with how much she just rocks this dude. She hangs him literally kicks him out of the barn and hangs him. That doesn't work, because of course it doesn't. She hits him with a very skull with a very thick neck, incredibly thick. The rippling muscles on his neck are just obscene. It takes an axe to the skull just to finally get him down, and it's just a really great whole sequence. Minus Corbin and Bobby, I think you guys have one bit you really didn't enjoy about this little climax.
The final.
You talking about this bit?
Yeah. So first, I definitely
there's two. It sounds like
I definitely want to bring up. Yeah, Bobby's miming it. I love when he does the arms out after already being killed, basically.
So stupid.
Yeah.
The final 3D moment of why did we do this?
It's so stupid. Okay, so like going back to like the sexual assault aspect, which is like one super messed up. Like, don't make that a plot point. It doesn't need to be a plot point, considering how quickly they drop it and turn Jason into a force of nature after this movie. Yeah. It's clear that was not something they were ready to do. But like simultaneously, right? Like after Jason is dead, and they almost assuredly confirm to you that Jason is in fact a goddamn corpse by the end of this. Like
he's lying there dead for so long.
Yeah. Hey, you guys remember Friday the 13th part 1? What if we reattached Mrs. Voorhees' head and threw her in a lake and then had that jump scare happen again? And God, it's so cringy. You know what? Going back to what I said in the last segment, I'm sure it worked, but it does not work anymore.
Yeah. It looks good. Like the effect is good. You know, I've seen a lot of close-ups of the suit that they use for the Mother Jason, and like it looks pretty decent, but rehashing what ends up being an iconic jump scare so quickly, only 2 movies later, is like, this is too much. And it feels like that, on top of the fact that they leave Jason dead for so long, it is actually the first instance of a recurring problem over the course of this franchise, which is, we're pretty sure this is the last one, so let's just end it like this. And then it's never the last one, and so looking back, it's always so silly that it ends that way.
All right, boys, the time has come. Is Friday the 13th Part 3 essential to Friday the 13th as a whole? Corbin, get us started.
Yeah. So, is Friday the 13th 3D essential? I'm going to say yes. I think that this is an easy yes. It's hard to say that the introduction of Jason's visual aesthetic isn't essential. You know, we mentioned for part 2 that it is a yes, not only because it's one of the best entries, but because it's the first one with Jason, and this is the first one with the hockey mask. And when you're looking at it from a purely Friday the 13th lens, it's hard to say no at that point. It also does have some of the best kills. I mentioned a few of them in the gore section, and I think that for a franchise that focuses on the kills and not at all on really anything else, that's important, right? Are there some missteps with the 3D and with the complete lack of characters? Like, yeah, there's the behind the scenes of this movie is interesting because there's a lot of retakes that they used for gore and for 3D, and literally no double takes for any of the just spoken lines. They would just take one shot and then go, well, you got the lines right, and then move on, and it shows, right? It's just not as good of a film as the second one, I'll say. The first one has issues, but so yeah, I'm gonna say yes, it's essential.
All right. Bobby.
Yeah, this movie has to be within the Friday the 13th mythos, and frankly, within horror movies, right? It's an essential film, right? This is the first time you see Jason Voorhees in a pseudo, this is what Jason Voorhees is meant to be, right? And this movie is iconic. In like, comedies will make fun of the dumb 3D aspects and how wooden and not even remotely realistic the characters are. It's just a bad movie that made a shit ton of money, and like it's iconic in that way. And like, is it a good movie? No. Is it a movie that you should watch? Probably not. But for the franchise and for horror as a whole, I mean, you kind of have to, right? Like, so yeah, absolutely, it's essential. And it kills me in a deep way to say that.
The catharsis of hearing Bobby say X Friday the 13th movie is essential to Friday the 13th just feels good.
It doesn't feel good to me, so I'm glad it feels good to you.
Hey, I'll take those W's where I can find them.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 podcast hosts agree. This is a good feeling.
Yeah. Hard yes. I mean, this is a pretty easy slam dunk essential part of Friday the 13th. I was very strong on the Jason is Jason kind of point here. Like it has to be. You see the hockey mask. Like, how can you... I don't think anyone in good conscience can look at this and go, no, well, that's just not an important thing. Well, of course it is. That's the aesthetic. That's what you think of when you... Not just that, but that's a big part of it. When you think Jason, you think the hockey mask. If you're anywhere and you see one of those hockey masks, you're not thinking, boy, I want to go be a goalie. No, you think Jason Voorhees. And if it's gonna make that much of a connection with just an inanimate object, I think it has to be essential. I think that's just an easy slam dunk. Gore was better than part 2. Final Girl wasn't as good, but what can you do? You can't win every aspect with every movie. So that's what we've got for you guys today. It's been a fun episode. Next victim on the stretcher is going to be part 4. The final chapter for the first time. That's going to be coming in 2 weeks. In the meantime, come hang out with us at our Discord. Links in the description. We like to talk, have fun. You can also check out the main show, Essential Scares. We'll have that in our link tree and all that. Corbin and Bobby, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you being on.
Of course.
Hey, you'll see me again in part 5, The New Beginning. Spoiler warning.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Take care. Have a good night.